Are you tired of thinking about drinking, trying to control it, and ending up in the same loop? Welcome to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast, where high achieving women learn how to step out of the stop start cycle and build a life that feels calm, clear, and alcohol free on purpose. I'm your host, Lindsay, accredited sober coach and former high functioning drinker. After more than a decade of drinking every night while keeping up a big career and a life that looked fine from the outside, I rebuilt my identity from the inside out. Now I help women stop negotiating with themselves and trust their own decisions again. This isn't a podcast full of cliches or willpower pep talks. You're getting real conversations, lived experience coaching, and practical tools you can use inside your actual life, not perfect conditions. So take a breath. You're here because you're ready to feel good in your real life. So let's get started. If you're listening to this episode during the last few days of dry January, I want to start by saying something that might feel really simple, but it matters. Wherever this month has brought you, it's worth acknowledging it. What I mean by that is whether this month has been perfect, whether you did all of dry January without any slips, or if you had a slip, or if it felt harder than you expected, or if you were white knuckling your way through certain days or the whole thing, all of it counts. This is one of the pieces that I really wish that I paid more attention to in my own journey to my last drink, because I looked at any time I went back to drinking as this big failure and just more evidence that I was never going to live the way that I was really trying hard to live. But what I learned was that all of those times, any time I put effort into not drinking, it all added up. It all brought me to that last drink. And I took many breaks from drinking, a couple of dry Januaries. And aside from that, all of my other breaks were, 1 week, 2 weeks, nothing major, at least nothing that felt significant enough that was really telling me like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this someday. So I really want you to know that whether or not your dry January was perfect or felt great or you felt strong through it, or whether it was a total disaster, whether you're listening to this and you were like, well, Lindsay, I said I was going to do dry January, but by the second I was just totally throwing in the towel. Like, I don't care. All of it is you moving forward. I promise you that. I promise you. I promise you. And it's something that I wish that I really realized in any break I was taking, like, oh yeah, this is going to be something that is bringing me forward. And it doesn't feel like that in the moment because I know how hard this is. Showing up, even if it's not the way you want to, if it's totally imperfect, is still movement forward. And for a lot of women, this month didn't feel like some clean, empowering experience. Maybe it felt really messy. It probably, I'm going to guess, felt uncomfortable. And my favorite saying, top 3, this is maybe number 1, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's the name of the game here. Honestly, if you can do that, you're going to crush it at everything. So maybe it felt a little revealing. Maybe you got a peek behind the curtain of some feelings or emotions that you'd been avoiding. Doesn't mean it didn't work. It means you've been paying attention. If you're taking the time to really notice what has come up for you during this past month, you're paying attention. As we approach the end of something like dry January, it's like, well, what am I going to do next? I've been working so hard. I've been doing so well. But then that you deserve it voice creeps in. So you might be starting to think like, do I go back like to just drinking? Do I need to make a decision right now of what I'm going to do on February 1st? Or maybe you're wondering, why does this feel heavier now than it did in the beginning? So today I want to talk about that moment. And this isn't about rules and this isn't about how much willpower you might have, but from what's actually happening inside your brain and your nervous system. And more importantly, I want to talk about what this moment and what you're thinking and feeling is really asking of you. Because the other thing that we are focused on is how do we take care of ourselves? And maybe you have been in a situation where you taking care of yourself is relaxing on the couch with a glass of wine. But I think you or this moment is asking something different from yourself. And so that's what we're going to unpack today. Okay. So when alcohol steps out of the picture, even temporarily, certain things tend to rise to the surface. And these aren't always in like a really big way. They can be in very small, everyday moments. And you might be noticing things or experience throughout the month like, oh, I'm not spiraling the same way in the evenings, or I'm not thinking about drinking the second I walk in the door after a long day, or I have been pouring something else first and I'm realizing like, I'm okay. I'm feeling safe here. Things are going all right. Or you might have noticed I went to bed earlier and I didn't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then toss and turn for the rest of the night. Or I'm catching myself sooner. I'm seeing what I need and I'm addressing it sooner. Now, individually or maybe even all together, these things might feel a little insignificant. None of it needs to feel super amazing to matter. These aren't like big monumental moments, but they are little signals to you. And what I see all the time, and I totally did this too, is we dismiss these moments because they don't look impressive enough. And this happens so much with high achieving women because what do? We discredit our success. Or we are successful, we complete the project, we killed it, we nailed it, everything is amazing. And then we're like, what's next? We have this what's next mindset. And what happens with that is the bar just is always getting higher. And we're not even like stopping to celebrate how amazing we are. We're not stopping to acknowledge our achievements or giving ourselves credit. And these are the moments where the real work lives. Like the real work is the day-to-day moments where you were feeling like you've been going all day and you were feeling depleted and you opened the refrigerator and you were about to say F it and pour that Sauvignon Blanc, but instead you reached for the seltzer and you slowed down. Because when you are making these changes in your life, there's no big banner that's held up announcing change is happening, change. It kind of shows up in a way where you're feeling uncomfortable. Like that's what change is. And we're going to get into some of that with the science behind our brain and how our brain takes care of us. But I want you to know that these things, the moments where the real work lives, they show up very like minimalistically in your life. So we have to pay attention to make sure that we're noticing it. And also, give yourself a lot of credit. Even if you had 10 slips in January, only compare yourself to a previous version of yourself. If you're like, well, I drank less this January than I did last January, or I drank less in January than I did in December, then give yourself a massive pat on the back and wrap your arms around yourself and give yourself a hug because you're just doing amazing. Now is the perfect time to just take a quick break so that I can tell you about one of my favorite non-alcoholic wines, Saint Viviana, a non-alcoholic wine brand for women who still love the ritual of a glass of wine, just not the aftermath. And fun fact that I just learned, there's actually a patron saint of no hangovers. Her name is Saint Viviana, and yes, this wine is named after her. These are de-alcoholized premium wines, which means the wine comes first and the alcohol is removed later. That leads to less sugar, fewer additives, and a flavor that actually tastes like what you're reaching for at the end of the day. They have a Cabernet, which is one of my personal favorites, a bright Sauvignon Blanc, and a sparkling Chardonnay, all designed to let you unwind, celebrate, or pour a glass without paying for it the next day. Okay, so cheers to no hangovers and better mornings. I love them. I hope you'll check them out. The link is in the show notes. Okay, let's dive into change. One of the biggest misconceptions around change is the idea that readiness comes first. That you're going to wake up one day and you are going to feel clear, confident, and certain, and then you're going to act. But that is not how readiness actually works. Readiness and confidence form after action. So belief forms after evidence. I often tell women when they start working with me, it takes a lot to step into my program because I know that there's a lot of apprehension, fear of failure, fear that you have a lot of shame and you don't want to share that with anybody. What I often tell them is that I believe in you and you can borrow my belief that you are going to be successful at this until you believe in yourself. So the thing is that our belief that we can do this only forms after our brain has collected evidence that we're like on the right track. We're very results driven, us high achieving women. And so we want to see that we can do it. But when we're trying to say that we need readiness or confidence first, that is what keeps us stuck. It's what holds us back. So whether you meant it or not, during your dry January, you have collected evidence, real evidence, not theoretical motivation, but you've collected lived proof. This can look like getting through a Sunday night without drinking, choosing a non-alcoholic drink and not feeling deprived, or stopping after one drink and not finishing the bottle. This is evidence that you can do it. Or one of my favorites is dumping the drink after you poured it. I will tell you that I think if you pour a glass of wine and you take one sip and then you dump it because you know it's not what you want to do, that is like a massive accomplishment because you've taken all the actions and you might be starting to feel worse. And that is awareness. That is you catching it. So if you have done that, I want you to know, go you. Okay. Another thing is maybe reaching out to a friend, or maybe you're part of a sobriety group or something, instead of isolating, because isolating is going to keep you in the shame loop or the self-doubt loop. This I can tell you from my own lived experience. I did my whole journey isolated, and it wasn't until the last few weeks of my drinking that I finally got like really open and vulnerable with my husband about it. And it was one of the biggest turning points in my whole journey. It's also one of the things that I help women with is finding the language to use with their partners or with other people that they spend a lot of time with, so that they feel really comfortable and confident in this new identity that they're building. It's not only my zone of genius, but my favorite part about the work, because it's when we start to really feel like we have a sense of empowerment. These are not small things. They are moments, all of this evidence are moments that your brain is like, this is interesting. I can do something different here and everything's fine. Everything's good. And this is where readiness actually comes from, not from promising yourself forever or like saying, I'm never going to drink again, because we know how that goes. That's like a different type of pressure that we put on ourselves. But it's from realizing that you are capable of change right now in this moment. And the question at the end of dry January isn't, am I ready? Like, am I ready for what's next? It's, what evidence did I collect and what of it am I willing to take seriously? Like, evidence is also known as information, and information is great if we do something with it, but it's not going to single-handedly create your transformation. Only you and the action you put behind it is what is going to create a transformation for you. That's what's going to take you from living one way to living another, the way you want to be living. I want to talk a little bit about why these last few days of the month, or your break from drinking, often feels more uncomfortable than the beginning. So early January, those opening few days, it comes with a lot of structure. You have probably stocked up your refrigerator on all the non-alcoholic drinks that you're going to have. You've probably told people that you're doing dry January. There's specific rules. Alcohol's off the table, and you have this support backing of saying, I'm doing dry January. And it's that external permission. It's like, oh yeah, I'm doing dry January. And there's going to be the people who are like, oh, have fun with that. But there's also enough people doing it that you feel good about it. You don't have to worry. You don't have to explain yourself. And so that takes a lot of the pressure off. But then the end of January comes with more ambiguity, and the brain hates ambiguity. Now, from a neurological standpoint, your brain is wired to prefer what's familiar, not what's better. Okay. Familiar patterns require less energy. They're predictable. They reduce uncertainty. And for many women, alcohol hasn't been about enjoyment. It's been about relief and certainty. I know what this will do. I know how this ends, good or bad. I know the outcome, and I know how to get out of my head. I know that alcohol is going to give me the quickest path to feeling relief. So when that pattern is interrupted, our brain is actually not celebrating. It's scanning for threat. It says, what's the plan now? Like, what are we going to do? What are we allowed to do? What if we mess this up? That discomfort doesn't mean that you need a drink, doesn't mean that it's time to go open a bottle of wine. It means your nervous system is in between patterns. And that's actually the most important moment, because it's the moment where change either consolidates or collapses back into autopilot. Another piece that matters here is understanding what relief actually does. Okay. Now, alcohol provides fast relief, but it's shallow and it's short-lived. Neurochemically, the first drink gives a dopamine spike. Now, this dopamine spike is going to last anywhere from 17 to 20 minutes, and then it's going to drop. Now, what follows isn't more relief. It's the chase. You're chasing more dopamine. And what happens is you're never going to get that initial 20-ish minutes, that feeling again, because the more you drink, the more intoxicated you feel. Then alcohol starts having the other less desirable effects that it has on us, like more depression, poor sleep, all those things. And that is why just one drink isn't going to satisfy you. The brain is not looking for the taste of the wine. It's looking for that very first shift that it gives you, that downshift, you might call it. And that shift doesn't last. What lasts longer is what comes after. Poor sleep, irritability, fog, emotional reactivity, waking up the next day, knowing that you've broken your self-trust again, and saying, I just wanted to take the edge off. So when you hear yourself thinking that, it makes sense. But the question worth asking is this: how much edge does it add back later? That's just you being honest with yourself. A lot of us think the drinking moment is the problem, but the pattern is actually starting several hours earlier. It starts when the pressure is stacking up. Meals get skipped. Your day never slows down. You're back-to-back meetings all day long. And then you're going to pick up the kids, or you're just, you're going to a workout class, or you're going home and then you have to cook dinner, and you have to take care of yourself, and you have to do chores around the house, and the pool guy is coming tomorrow and you have no idea what time, but you're supposed to be home for it, and you have another back-to-back day the next day. All these things. The day never slows, and there's no transition for you in between roles. It's all about how you're taking care of yourself during the day, and then how you're allowing yourself this decompression time. This is another major area of focus that I spend with women. We talk about all of these patterns and this transition time. It is more important than you think. And I tell you, when the women in my group start implementing this for themselves, things really start to change. It is noticeably different how your evenings start to run once you implement this. This is where the work is. These are not big, dramatic changes that you're making to your life. It's how to live in a way where you're taking care of yourself. So, I have some really good news for you, and it's one of the most important parts. Breaking the pattern doesn't require perfection. This is why I always say don't measure success based on your stretch or number of alcohol-free days. Okay. Things that are just as important, if not more important, is stopping sooner. That matters. Pausing, slowing down, interrupting the autopilot. That matters. Choosing something else first. That matters. Literally walking into a different room to change the negative thought loop that's going on in your head. Like, these are things that matters. Texting somebody instead of isolating. All of these things build evidence. They tell your brain there's another option here. And when your brain sees that enough times, something starts to click with it and it feels safe. It takes repetition and time so that your brain collects enough evidence. And that is why making this in a sustainable way, not burning your whole life down and then changing it every single minute of every day, that's not going to be sustainable. You're setting yourself up to fail when that happens. When your brain sees new pattern, new pattern, new pattern, new pattern, oh, old pattern slipped in. But now you have a protocol to follow when that happens. And then the next day you get back up and it's back to new pattern, new pattern, new pattern. Oh, maybe the old pattern slipped in again. But do you see where I'm going with this? The new pattern starts to overtake the old pattern. And eventually that old pattern is donezo. It's no longer part of your life. The time that this takes, though, is where most women get really frustrated. They're waiting for motivation to show up. This is what I mean by motivation can start to fade during this time. And we start to think like, well, one day I'm going to wait until I'm feeling more driven to do this. But motivation doesn't walk through the door with you at 6 p.m. And it's certainly not there waiting for you when you open your front door to leave the house. Like, momentum creates motivation. Momentum is built through small, repeatable actions, wins that don't look necessarily wildly impressive, but it's consistency without perfection. Perfection doesn't matter here. Like, saying I'm never going to drink again isn't something that needs to be on your mind right now. And whether or not you have a slip in a month from now or even 3 days from now, it's not a problem if you know what to do when it happens. So it's all about consistency without this perfection mindset. This is something that we are talking about constantly inside Feel Good AF, because women, if they dismiss their wins, they're starving their momentum. That's what's happening here. But when these wins are named and stacked, even the ones that feel insignificant, your motivation grows. Not discipline, motivation, confidence, which means you believe that you can do this, because confidence comes from seeing yourself follow through on the things that you say that you're going to do. And momentum compounds. And once it's there, all of these things that felt really hard and impossible even just a few days ago, you're seeing these are sustainable. I can do this. And that belief starts to grow. Okay. As per usual, I have an assignment for you. I want to leave you with something really practical today. And this is something that mirrors how I actually work with the women inside Feel Good AF. Over the next few days, I want you to do this once, just one time. I want you to pick one evening, and before it starts, I want you to ask yourself, what usually makes this part of the day harder? And then just choose one small way you want to support yourself ahead of time. This isn't about creating rules for yourself, because we all know how those rules go. It's not even necessarily a promise. This is just you supporting yourself in that moment. And it might look like making sure that you eat lunch or having a snack in the afternoon. Maybe it looks like as soon as you get home, you're going to immediately make yourself a non-alcoholic drink. Maybe it's stepping outside for some fresh air. when you're starting to feel that pressure rise and the urge is hitting you. Maybe it's deciding that your night ends earlier. You take a shower, you go to bed 8:30, something like that. Then notice what happens, not whether or not it all went perfectly, but what changed. That's how evidence gets built, and you are already building it. Like I said, no matter how your dry January went, you're already building evidence. If you're listening to this and you've been following along for a while, there's a good chance that you already know something about yourself. You've probably been trying to moderate your drinking for a while. You've probably negotiated with yourself many, many times. You've probably promised yourself this time's going to be different, and you're still here, which tells me that this isn't about information anymore. It's about action. And so I want to remind you that confidence doesn't come from waiting. Belief doesn't come from thinking this through more. It comes from moving, taking action, getting support before you're ready, because you're not going to feel ready. You have to decide that you're ready. So if this month, this dry January really opened something up inside you saying that you're ready for this change, if you recognize yourself in the patterns and the things that I talked about today, and you're tired of circling and being in this cycle, this is your moment to stop waiting. It's time for you to act differently now, because action is what's going to build confidence. It's the only way that you are going to feel like you can make it all the way through to the other side of alcohol. Confidence is going to change everything for you, but you have to build it. Okay. I hope that you're feeling really proud of yourself no matter what happened, no matter how your dry January went. And just remember that you don't need a month or a label like dry January to be finding success in this journey. The success is in there. You just have to pull it out. You have to name it. You have to identify it. So, as always, send me a message. I want to know how you're doing. Okay, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Feel Good Alcohol Free podcast. If this episode landed for you, it would mean a lot if you left a review or take a quick screenshot of it and share it on social media. That's how this show reaches more women who are ready to stop living in the drinking loop and start leading themselves with confidence again. I'm on a mission to change the way high-achieving women think about alcohol, because you don't need more willpower or more rules around your drinking. You need real support, real tools, and the truth about what's actually possible for you. So keep showing up for yourself, keep telling the truth about what you want. And remember, the life you want isn't found in a glass or a bottle of wine. It's built in the decisions that you can stand behind, the ones that you feel really good about. My DMs are always open, and I can't wait to get to know you better. I will see you next week in the next episode.